Matt Abbatacola is here. Hi, Matty.
Hey, buddy.
It's really good to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's good to be here, despite the circumstance of what it is. It's good to be here. And that was nice. That was a nice little touch there to throw that in there. I appreciate that very much because that was fun.
That was Terry on the podcast that you and Dan Bernstein do together, Unfiltered.
Yes, so we do Dan Bernstein Unfiltered, and we do a Bears podcast, Forward Progress, and we were fortunate enough to have Terry on as our first guest ever on the brand new podcast network, and Terry was the first guy we brought through.
Wow.
And it was early September. I didn't expect you to play that. That was really nice and cool. I appreciate that very much. And, I've watched that now a couple times again over the last couple days, as I've been going back through Terry's book again and sitting on the couch. And when I found out Friday, he consumed my whole weekend. My brain was consumed by Terry. And fortunately, it was a busy dad weekend because we had 8 basketball games on Saturday and Sunday combined. So, I'm in different spots and watching a lot of basketball. So my body was physically busy. My mind was just on Terry constantly.
For anybody who doesn't know, by the way, I can't imagine they don't, but I should just remind people every once in a while, Matty, a long, long history here at The Score on a ton of different shows as a host and, of course, as a producer, but most famously known as the executive producer of Boers Bernstein for how long?
So 14 years.
14 years, the executive producer of that show.
Yeah, so I came here to The Score in 2001 as an intern and then associate producer for Murph and Fred in the mornings.
You interned for me as a producer, right?
I interned for you. I was an interning. I interned for Murph and Fred, and then Dan and Terry. Fishman was here as as sports director.
Yeah, all of it.
Dan Zampillo was the producer. Jay Hood was the board op and producer for B&B when I was there.
A lot of those names will be on today. If they can't, it's either because they're not allowed or they're getting surgery. One of the two.
Are those the two options?
Yeah,
so it's either available, not allowed, or surgery. All right. Yeah, I'm glad I was allowed. No surgeries planned. No, but I couldn't be happier to be here.
I'm glad you were allowed too.
Yeah, and it's again, I say it's a bittersweet thing to be here because this was home for such a long time, or at least one of the iterations of home. There was 3 different locations that were home, but to be here to celebrate Terry, just means that he's gone, and that really sucks.
But it's an opportunity for us to all be together and think about him and talk about him. I'm sure your phone's been blowing up on your weekend of Terry, like you said. Like you probably heard from people and you're texting about
so many people.
Right?
So many people. People that maybe came through the show as a guest a couple different times. Guys that were, former colleagues and Score producers and Score hosts. Just hearing from everybody and hearing from all the listeners that have reached out to us on our podcast, just, with Terry stories and things that I've forgotten, and hearing how Terry related to people and impacted people on their own individual level. To hear those stories it's awesome, and to hear, I remember when Terry said this, and it's like, oh my God, I totally forgot, Terry did that. Whether
share one if there's anything that's in your mind. Feel free.
There was a great email that came through to us, to me and Bernstein. A guy said to honor Terry the other day, he took some coffee, put it in a styrofoam cup, didn't drink it, would microwave it to heat it up, not drink it, reheat it, not drink it, reheat it, because that's what Terry would do. And it was just like a little thing like that I just forgotten about. And I'm like, my God, this guy, he would go to the microwave constantly and microwave his Dunkin' Donuts cup, not drink the coffee because it would get cold. He'd have to reheat it. And he would do that over a 5-hour period a dozen times.
But let me ask you about that, because there's a couple things.
And so it was something like that I was just like, yeah, it's just those little things.
Yeah.
And that's what someone who wasn't around Terry personally every day remembered about Terry.
Well, Matty, and then he would just drink his Diet Coke anyway.
Right, and he was drinking Diet Cokes.
Well, this is the thing, Tanny. This came up yesterday.
It did,
Two
yes.
things. One, I think the guy was trying not to drink coffee. Knew he shouldn't because he took better care of his body. There was a point where he used to be super heavy, then he stopped eating cashews, right? And he stopped drinking coffee and stuff like that. But he still kind of liked the ritual of doing it, and it gave him an excuse to walk around and mess with people.
I think that's what it came down to, was just the opportunity to be in the hallways and see people.
That's what I'm saying. Just
right.
needed to have the social, because it wasn't enough to do it on a radio show.
Right.
And then he would get bored with sitting with the partner, so I got to walk around and mess with everybody.
Yeah, and it wasn't Terry's style to go up and interact with people without a purpose or a reason. It was like, I was on my way to the microwave, buddy. Hey, how are you, buddy? Because Terry didn't like attention, which is bizarre and ironic. in the industry that he was in for so long. He didn't like attention. He didn't like being the focus. He didn't like having the spotlight on him, yet he was so good at all of it. He was great at communicating. He was great at connecting with people. He was great at interacting with people, making them laugh and feel welcome and part of whatever he was doing.
Amazing.
But he just didn't like the attention of it.
So that's fascinating. He used it as the tool, as we all do in some ways, and it's part of how we ended up in the business psychologically that you're talking to me about. He used that tool to make everybody comfortable, and that's what he did.
Yeah, I was just on my way to the microwave, buddy, and hey, buddy, that was his thing. So it was like just something like that, and that's what someone remembered about Terry was us making fun of Terry for always microwaving his coffee and never drinking it, and that's what a guy remembered. And it's stuff like that I've heard over the last several days. It's been awesome to hear and to see in reading emails, feeling the emotion through the emails is really cool. Feeling emotion through people's words is awesome. And when you're a well-published author, that's your fucking
Yep, that happens.
Sorry.
Yeah, podcast.
I'm
live.
used to it now. I can swear all the time. Sometimes I just swear just to swear.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about that, fellas.
Yeah, give Tanny about a minute and a half.
Like if you're an author, like your job is to make people emote feelings. If you're sending an email about a guy you never met and I can feel how you feel about it, that's really special. That's what he did. And to, talk about score heads and bringing listeners together at remotes, and it really is true. And really seeing that through Terry's passing is just a really special thing about who Terry was as a person. I'll share this with you. I was talking with Bernsey about it yesterday when we were remembering Terry. Like my experience with Terry is very different and unique than everyone else's. And I say that in regards to the score. Because I've heard from a lot of people that either worked here or knew Terry that way professionally, or guys that still work here, grew up listening to the score or listened to the score in their adulthood before they worked here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I never did. Like I knew the score existed, obviously. So 1992, it comes out. I'm 19 years old. I'm knee deep in Michael Jordan and the Bulls and all that stuff. I was living and dying by Jordan. I didn't listen to sports talk radio, and I knew the score existed. If I ever turned it on, it was in the mornings, and I would hear, briefly Tom Scher and Jim Memolo. I remember hearing Doug Buffone and Norm Van Leer, the Bull and the Bear, but I didn't listen to Monsters of the Midday. I didn't listen to the Heavy Fuel Crew. I didn't know there was a guy named Mike Murphy on after, Dan McNeil and Terry Boers. I didn't listen. So when I was at Illinois Media School and got an internship, I didn't choose the score. I got an assignment. So I'm like, oh, sport. Yeah, I'm familiar with the score. I can go do sports radio.
Wow.
It's fine. So I come here not knowing anything or anyone of the history of the score. So I meet Murph and Fred, and I'm doing their show, and I meet Dan and Terry. Like McNeil to me was a guy on ESPN.
Because he did ESPN radio sometimes on the weekends.
No,
stuff like
but
that.
2001 when I got here,
I see.
He wasn't here.
Oh, you mean Dan Bernstein and Terry? Right.
No, yeah. So Dan and Terry,
yeah.
were just two guys, and I'm working their radio show.
It's a lot of Dan and Terry talk today.
Yeah, sorry. So
good.
I didn't know, I wasn't familiar with, Terry from the Heavy Fuel Crew. I just knew him as Dan Bernstein's partner, and I'm working their radio show now. That was it.
Yeah. So what? How did he strike you?
We started off as friends. We just became friends because I wasn't like, oh my God, that's Terry Boers.
You didn't have to battle through the public image and that.
Yeah,
concept.
and I didn't he wasn't on, and I don't mean this in a negative way or trying to portray what other people think or feel about him, but he wasn't on this pedestal to me of a radio guy because that just wasn't my thing. And then it was like, oh, he was a writer. So I would go back through and pull out, I've saved Full Sun Times to commemorate the Bulls championships and other, and I'm like, oh, there's Terry. That's the guy whose radio show I work on now. He was a writer.
Yeah, he was.
So I just, that wasn't a thing to me. So I knew Terry first. I just got to know Terry as a person. That's how that started. It wasn't like Terry of the Heavy Fuel Crew, Terry as a founder of the score. It was just a guy that I worked for, and we just became friends.
So what did he mean to you as a person and a friend through the years? Because you and I have talked a lot. We've all been through some stuff. You've been through some stuff, man. Terry had a warmth about him. Did you feel that warmth?
Oh, of course. No. So Terry eventually, that friendship grew into a family-like relationship. I mean, Terry was a father figure to me. That's what he was, And when and I explained this to Bernsey the other day. There had been times throughout our 14-year working relationship that Terry was disappointed in me, like a father would be in a son. And Terry sat me down a few different times and expressed his disappointment in behavior or whatever might have been. And he was able to do that because we had that kind of relationship, and he was like that father figure to me. But his disappointment was always umbrellaed in love, and it was never umbrellaed in like judgment or anger. And usually at the end of those conversations, there was a handful of them. It always ended with like an outstretched hand, like here to help. Like, hey, how can I help you? What can I do to help? I'm seeing this or that, or this happened, and let's talk about this. So we had that kind of relationship. So that's where it developed. So it's
beautiful that he cared enough to try and have those conversations, because a lot of people won't bother to try.
Well, and it's interesting when Terry's talked about this, and he talked about it on the final show we did on January 5th of 2017, a toast to Terry. I listened to that the other day too. My wife and I, Natalie and I, we sat down and listened to it. And Terry talks about the story where he and I went out one night to dinner out in Mokina area. We went out to dinner at this Mexican restaurant, and Terry opened up to me about a friend he had in his 20s, early on in his, starting off in his paper life. And they became friends. He got really close, and then that guy got sick and fought cancer and died. And it was from there that Terry was like, I'm done investing in people. I'm going to keep people at an arm's length because I'm not going to open up and get hurt again. I'm not going to do that. And when he told me that story about that relationship, he said it was the first time he ever shared that story with anyone. Wow. But he shared it with me because we developed a closeness, and he let me in. And it was the first person that he'd let in a long time. So that's the kind of relationship that we had. It went beyond working together for 5 hours a day doing radio. And after he retired and I'd left the score 4 months after that, we still kept in touch, obviously, and we'd see each other as we could. He was in Florida a lot, but we'd gotten together for lunches, and I would, go down to the south suburbs, and we'd get together at his favorite places for lunch, and we'd see each other that way. But it was a lot of texting or calls, because he spent a lot more time in Florida, thank God, which was great for him. I know he loved it out there, but well, we would see each other when we could. But our relationship, it started out as me interning and working on his radio show, and then becoming friends, and then it developed a lot closer than that.
I wonder if that friendship is why you were so comfortable going after the both of them so often in really wonderful ways that made for compelling radio. Like, were there times where you guys would tussle and it would be cool, right? He probably, did he ever get upset with you for those kind of times?
No, and Terry and I never really tussled, though. We never really had much conflict at all. I think if any conflict developed, it was because he was uncomfortable with the amount of conflict that Bernstein and I had.
Right.
And he didn't like it, but he never really even expressed it a lot. He never said, you two need to stop, or it's too much. I think it just made him uncomfortable at times, and he just kind of put it away and let the children be the children, So yeah, we never had any conflict at all. It was funny. I would always vent to Terry about Bernstein.
Would he vent to you about Bernstein?
No, he never really had much to vent out about Dan. So,
but you would vent to him. That's good.
Oh God, yeah.
We need that.
Oh yeah, he would if.
I never vent to Tanny about Lawrence or anybody.
You shouldn't. There'd be no reason to.
I wouldn't dare.
But if like Bernstein would leave the studio, I would go wherever. I would walk in here and just MF him up and down for a few minutes, and
right.
Terry would laugh. And
I never vented to Tanny about Danny Parkins. Never. There was nothing ever to talk about.
Not the last couple hours you haven't anyway.
Yeah, that rat bastard.
I've been busy.
I mean,
I've been busy. All right.
That guy, that rat bastard. I would get after him if I were you.
I never vented to Jay Zawoski about McNeil. Not in the last 10 minutes.
Well, and none of those guys ever vented about you either. So, they're fine.
No, they were the problems. They were the problems.
Dan, Maddie, everyone else is the problem. That's the beauty of being perfect.
That's what
everyone else is the problem. When
Thank
you're named
God.
Matt, you got nothing but blue skies in your life.
All right, so you would vent to Terry about Dan.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Yeah, but it's just so that I think it's just it hit me a lot over the weekend, seeing a lot of the stories and hearing from a lot of guys how their view and their foundation of Terry, their relationship started.
Yeah.
It started as a listener or knowing who he was, and I didn't have that, and I'm really glad I didn't, because we were just two guys.
Yeah.
And the other aspect that hit me over the weekend a lot was, so I just turned 53 a couple weeks ago. When I met Terry, he was 51. So we're relatively the same age now, and obviously, he's was 75 when he passed a couple days back, but it seems like that. It seemed like yesterday. And that's a 24-year period, and it seems like yesterday, but it's also a long time. How quickly that goes. And shoot, I was 28 when I started interning here. I was old for an intern. And now that I'm 51, I look back and it's gone so fast. And so it kind of put me face to face once again with my own mortality over the weekend as I thought about it. I'm like, Terry was just 51. And we were just doing shows together, and I was interning for him, And now, he deals with all these different illnesses and all the struggles that he has to go through physically, and now he's gone. And it's like, all right, I'm 53. 75 could come up like that for me.
It is. It's going to.
And
God willing.
There's a lot of life that's going to happen and will happen there. And, my goal, man, I don't know about you. I want to make it to 100. I got to get to 100. Like I got 47 more years in me. I want to see my kids grow, and I want to see them have families. My daughter's having her first baby in March, so I'll be able to be a grandpa.
Come on.
I want to be that grandpa that goes to kids, sporting events. And I'm at my kids' games, and I see, their teammates' grandparents are there supporting them for T-ball and then travel baseball, now basketball and tackle football. I want to do that for my grandkids.
Of course
and so,
you do. And you will.
Yeah.
I know you're an unbelievable dad for your sons and their athletic life right now. Tell people, how old are your boys?
So Hank's 13, Jackie's 11 and a half.
Amazing.
So Hank and Jack, 13, 11 and a half, 7th grade, 6th grade. I've coached the last 4 years of tackle football. 2 of those 4 years, they were on the same team, so I got to coach them together, which is always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've coached. Since Hanks was 5, I've been involved in about 30 teams, like 32 teams.
I mean, Bartosz told us the story of Terry getting to his grandson's basketball game and sitting there with him. It's like, that's the stuff that mattered to him. He gave time to the family and focused on them. He would love to know that you're doing that.
Right, and that's the thing about Terry that stands out the most to me. I mean, exceptional writer, exceptional communicator, great in radio, a founding father of sports talk radio, and those aren't even his best attributes and characteristics in life. I mean, him and Pete's been married over 50 years, and he raised 4 great boys who went on to have their own great families, and doing their own things. So Terry, the best part about Terry is his human side. The person that he was, the husband that he was, the father that he was, the grandfather that he was. Those are Terry's greatest attributes.
That's beautiful.
And yet we just know him for the public personality that he was, and the writer that he was, and the sports talk broadcaster that he was.
But
and
we're doing this.
Those aren't even. Yeah, I know.
We're doing this so you can tell people that. That's why we're doing this.
Right. But the amazing thing about Terry is his ability to blend all those together, because the stories that we're hearing from people are the human side of Terry. It wasn't like, oh my God, Terry had this take on the Bulls and I'll never forget it. No, it was when Terry made you laugh when you were going through a hard time, when your life wasn't at its peak, and you used the Boers and Bernstein show as your medicine to get through those dark times, those tough times, that laughter that they brought you, and that's the human part of Terry, which is the greatest part of what Terry was. Of all the great things there was, it was the human side of Terry, which is why people felt so comfortable around Terry. Because, like I said this to Dan, Terry is the guy that could take a stranger, meet him at a Who Needs Two Tavern tour, sit face to face with the guy, roast the guy verbally in front of other people, and that guy would walk away laughing, having the best time of his life.
Yes.
Even though he just got made fun of for 5 minutes by a guy he doesn't know, and loved every stinking second of it.
That's the way it was in the hallways. People would line up to get abused.
That's what he did.
Yes.
But it was because he connected with people on a human level, and he listened, and he loved people, and despite what he might have said about that, And that was the greatest strength that Terry had. He could make anyone feel comfortable at any time.
Matty, great to see you, man.
It's good to see you, too.
Thanks for doing this. That's Matt Abbatacola.
Thanks for having me here in the igloo. Jeez, what is it, 50 degrees in here?
I know. They're working on it, theoretically.
Is there a thermostat that turned the heat up?
It's the way Zawoski wants it. You know,
I'm sweating profusely still.
Yeah, I was going to say. Does the air from here blend into there? Because take your flannel off.
It's really not cold in here at all.
Oh, it's so
come
cold
on
in
over.
here. My
come
hands
on,
are
we'll snuggle.
frozen.
Thank you, Matty, for wearing a suit jacket like an
Oh,
adult.
but I thought we were on camera. Are we on TV somewhere?
Yeah, of course we are.
Yeah,
but it's a meaningful day. We should dress up. We both put on cologne today.
I put cologne on. I put
Terry.
a jacket on. I wore my nice Air Force Ones.
That's exactly right.
I used the whole bottle. Is that the way it's supposed to go?
Oh, look. Jason Goff has a jacket on, too. He's coming in here next.
Well, that's a handsome grown-up there.
I know. Look at all of us. I don't know how we got this old. Keep it right here on The Score.